We're now joined by Samson Itodo, the Executive Director of Yiaga Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this direct primary or no direct primary, that seems to be the issue. But a few days ago, Inec Chairman Mahmoud Yakub did say that Inec is fully ready to implement direct primaries. So is this letter to the Inec, for its position on direct primaries from the president, is it really necessary?
I don't think it's out of place that the president has sought INEC's advice and inputs on the amendments. I'd say it's part of a consultative process to speak to the electoral stakeholders. And I'm sure that, in the whole amendment process, both INEC, the Ministry of Justice, the National Assembly, and stakeholders were involved in this entire process. So I think going back to the commission is not out of place. We expect is that INEC would, respond to the president's advice and ask the president to assent to the bill. And it's our principled position, both from civil society, whether Yiaga Africa and all the organizations working on elections, that the president should, without any delay, assent to the bill that's before him, because that bill that is before him is a bill that reflects the wills and aspirations of Nigerians. And so he shouldn't be cajoled by some governors who are more concerned about how the electoral legal framework guarantees electoral victory in 2023. And there's no concern for the interest of the vast majority of Nigerians, because the position taken by the governors is antithetical to what Nigerians demand at this critical time.
Do you think it's a case of maybe the president is under some kind of pressure not to put pen to paper on the issue of direct primaries? Is that what's playing out? Is the president buying time on this? And in the event that INEC does actually say, okay, we cannot undertake direct primaries because of the huge, cost implication and all of that, what will happen to that electoral amendment bill?
But INEC, I don't expect INEC to say they can't monitor a direct primaries. Yes, you may have logistical issues with managing direct primaries. In the same way you have logistical challenges in managing everyday elections. The fundamental question is, are these challenges surmountable? And my answer is in the affirmative, that these challenges are surmountable. We shouldn't look at this legislation from a point of deficit or from a point of challenge. We should look at the opportunity that it presents to deepen the quality of our democracy. There's a rationale that underpins this demand for direct primaries, which is, first, you've got to devolve power to the people. And if this amendment is about giving power to the people, giving voters and registered members the opportunity to select their candidates, I don't think it's too much a cost that the country should pay for the democratic process.
Should we really be here in the first place if the National Assembly had actually gotten the input of the electoral umpire? Was it an error? Was it deliberate on the part of the National Assembly? Because it looked like it was a last-minute introduction.
Absolutely. It was a last-minute introduction. It was only introduced at the point the House of Reps was passing the amendment. And it was the Speaker of the House of Reps, that moved for a further amendment to Section 87 of the Electoral Act. It wasn't part of the initial conversation. But in their wisdom, or in the Speaker's wisdom, he has proposed this. There are explanations or political connotations that have been ascribed to that particular proposal. But we need to look at the merits of the proposal. And for me, I think that it contributes and it will lead to more citizens' participation, and it will break the hegemony and the capture of the candidate selection process within political parties. But I must also say that whether you adopt direct or indirect mode of nomination, no process is insulated from compromise or from manipulation.
Not even direct
Not
primaries.
Even direct
What
primaries.
are the cons that you see?
No, so first is the question about the register of party members. Because party members do vote at delegate primaries. So do you have a credible and authentic register of members within our political parties? And the truth is, no party today has an updated, credible register of its members. Even the major parties who are involved in membership registration. The second is, how accessible will those register of members be? Will aspirants have access to what? To the voters, to the register of members? What the law says is that the parties will issue guidelines in furtherance of that particular amendment. But it's silent as to who will have access to the register of members. Because what you do is the ward chairman at the ward level or the state chairman will now have control over the register of members, and only anointed aspirants or candidates will be given the register to determine who has access to the voting center.
Isn't that another danger?
Now, it poses a danger. There are gaps, and I must say that there is no law across the world that is perfect, right? But what you need to do is to look at using the instrumentality of guidelines. How do you address these gaps? But the fundamental question is this particular proposal or this particular bill that is before the National Assembly, does it reflect the aspirations of Nigerians? Will it enhance and radically transform our electoral process? The answer is a capital yes, and it's what the people have demanded. So any attempt to delay in assenting to this is jeopardizing the preparations for the 2023 elections.
And the president has until December 19th.
He does have, but I see no need. I think Inec should respond to the president in less than 24 or 48 hours, because they were part of this process from the beginning, and we shouldn't jettison a process that has taken us over 2 years just because a section of a political class think that if you introduce direct primaries, it will strip them of the powers.
And it's not just the governors, really, that are raising eyebrows about direct primaries. Opposition parties are doing the same. They're saying, no. PDP, for example, has said, no, this is a way to, give advantage to the sitting government.
Well,
who is afraid of direct
I've not heard the argument.
Or why should anybody be afraid of direct
primaries? The point is, I have made this point, that whether direct or indirect, no process is insulated. There is a reason why there's a demand for direct primaries. And it falls to the point that the indirect primaries have done what? Have subjected party members to the fringes of party politics and delegates, because the whole process is commercialized. And what governors do is they hijack the process, they hijack the delegates, they bribe and compromise the delegates to ensure that the anointed candidates emerge, or even they also emerge. So a lot of them want to come to their retirement home, which is the red chamber of the National Assembly, the Senate. And if you deploy or adopt direct mode of primaries, even though they are not popular, they won't secure party nomination in their own assumption. But I think that the fundamental thing we need to look at is which mode will advance the public good.
Which one will?
Which one will? In this case,
that's a good question.
I think the direct mode of primaries will advance the public good, but it's not insulated from manipulation.
It's not perfect, in other words. Now, one of the arguments put forward is that it will take the political parties back to the people.
Absolutely.
One of the arguments for direct primary. Can we get back to the Third Republic, or even maybe Second Republic, if you like, when the political party actually was on the driver's seat of the political process and governance itself? Many people will cite the example of Lateef Jakonde, who, carried out the manifesto of the UPN, his party.
I think it's an oversimplification.
Okay.
When we say that if we adopt direct primaries, it's going to radically transform our political parties. No. There are other factors that are critical and central. This might contribute, but I think first is internal democracy in the parties. How are the party leaders selected? It goes beyond the candidates, because the party leaders are the ones who determine the guidelines. So if you don't ensure that the leaders are voted by vast majority of members, but a situation where governors determine who the party chairman is, who the party secretary is, you still have a situation where the party system is under the control of hegemons who have the fiscal and economic power to determine the nature and character of our political parties.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Samson Itodo is Executive Director, Yiaga.